Hello.
Sabine, I'm from Sportswear International, as Ole just introduced me. I'm very happy to sit here on stage with Mr. Sandeep Verma from Allbirds. It's a fairly new footwear brand based in San Francisco, but since Sandeep started about 10 months ago, the European business, which is based in London, well, he's a British guy, and we agreed up front to talk about some easy topics. Okay, so for the easy part first, Sandeep, will Boris Johnson be the next Prime Minister? Will the Queen survive all this? And what will Brexit mean to your brand when you start European business? Can you make it 5 sentences, maybe?
Sabine, I heard that the Germans were such nice people, and you go straight to Brexit on the first question.
Sorry about that, but you know, you have to suffer. You have to suffer for all you did.
The gift that keeps giving. Look, it's, you know, how do you talk about Brexit? Firstly, you try not to, and then if you're asked the question, it's a strange thing. You know, it's one of these unique experiences that the closer you get to the supposed date, the more uncertain it becomes. So, look, it's not an easy thing to navigate, and the macros are I think if anyone in retail in the UK said it wasn't having an impact, they'd be lying. But for us, it's something which we can't control, so we just focus on what we do.
So still, I mean, I know, sorry to disappoint you with the first question, to be so unkind, you know. Okay, so we come to the kinder part now. I just introduced you as the managing director for Europe of Allbirds. You're in London. The brand was started in San Francisco. Can you explain a bit the background of how it started, about the founders?
Sure.
Maybe also your background a bit, to explain why you're with Allbirds now.
Yeah, so I have never worked in fashion or footwear, so this is about the coolest that I will ever look. I've actually been in the beauty industry for the last 10 years, and I was the CEO of a premium skincare company, which I don't think many of you guys would know unless you're from the UK, the Les Al Beauty Co., which also had quite a large direct-to-consumer business. And we scaled that business quite quickly and actually sold it to a corporation, the company that owns Boots. And that was back in 2015, and that was a tremendous experience, and you know, one which is always going to be dear in my heart. But I think once you go through that period and ownership kind of changes, and it become running it within a corporate environment, I started to think about, you know, what would I want to do next. And I guess my passion, the thing that really excites me, is trying to make a positive impact in my world, in my life, and I kind of was thinking about what's next, and this sounds completely made up and for the cameras, and it's really not. I was sat having a beer, you know, over a year ago in London, and I was thinking, right, what do I want to do next? And I thought, you know what, I want to stay in direct-to-consumer. I just love that part of operating, the control, the proximity to the consumer. That's something that I've always loved, so that was a really important part. The next thing, having a 5-year-old son and just had a new baby, I was really starting to question, you know, what am I leaving behind? What's my legacy? What's Daddy going to leave the boys other than hopefully a little bit of money and no Brexit? You know, the purpose behind the brand was really important to me. So I wanted to do something that's going to make a difference on a bigger scale. And literally about 4 weeks later, the phone rang, and it was a headhunter, and he mentioned Allbirds. And probably like most of you guys, my first question was, what's Allbirds? By the way, has anyone heard of Allbirds before today? This guy, okay. Bonus question, anyone actually wearing Allbirds? Not you guys, you're part of our team.
Yeah, from the company.
I'd be worried if you weren't, and you should be worried about your jobs if you weren't. No, I'm joking. So the phone rang, and I started to understand a little bit about it, and I then started to do my research as you do. And I think the biggest thing that struck me first was the overall purpose of what we're trying to do. So we talk about better things in a better way. Today that's about footwear, it's about better shoes in a better way. And it's the idea that you can actually create good products that people want to buy. So in our case, we talk about a super comfy, simple design shoe, which is...
Go one step back, because
Sure.
just for the brand, to explain that, it was founded in 2014 by 2 guys, right?
Yep.
American guy and a New Zealand guy.
Yep.
And they founded Allbirds as this sustainable footwear brand. And
Yep.
then you came on board about 10 months ago.
Sorry, let me recap. Maybe my passion is taking us all over. So rewind to 2014, which is when Tim Brown actually started a Kickstarter. So he went and created a shoe from wool, put it out to the wild in Kickstarter and all of a sudden raised a load of money. And then a year later, he partnered with our other co-founder, Joey Zellweger, who is a material engineer expert. And they got together in San Francisco and dreamt up this purpose of better things in a better way, and the idea that they could make a super comfy, simply designed shoe that's underpinned on sustainability. And I guess the bigger purpose that I was alluding to was the idea that you can actually have great product that people want to buy, that performs exceptionally well, but that is more thoughtful for the world, and actually change the way that brands make stuff. And I thought that was really powerful, and that's kind of what got me in.
You just mentioned the word performing, and since we're here to talk about the business case of sustainability, could you explain a bit what is the main part, what is the sustainable thing about Allbirds, and how can you actually also make money with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are what's called a benefit corporation. I don't know if people are familiar with that term, but effectively it's almost a regulation that you sign up to that means that you have to align profit and purpose in everything you do. So it's not just our materials. So in this case, this is a shoe made from eucalyptus fiber, which is responsibly sourced, natural material. We also have a shoe made from wool. So our materials have a lighter impact on the world, but also the way that we manufacture, the way that we hire, the way that we move products around the world also are done in a more thoughtful way that's ultimately marked, if you like. We're governed by this B Corp status. So we can't just go ahead and make a load of money and be out of balance with the planet and the world. But equally, you know, we do think that you can use business as a force for good, and Allbirds, you know, has scaled relatively quickly. We sold just over 1 million pairs of shoes in just under 2 years from one shoe, from pretty much a website in 2 stores in the US. And I think when that happens, really the consumer's telling you that they get the story and they love the product.
Could you still explain a bit more about the sustainable innovations you have? You just mentioned the eucalyptus material. I know you started from wool.
Yes.
Which makes sense because one of the founders comes from
New Zealand, yes.
New Zealand, exactly, where sheep are the happiest ones in the world. So of course you have to make something with wool. Could you go deep down in that and explain a bit more? Maybe also about the logistics, the packaging. I think there's many aspects.
Sure.
You talked to me,
Sure.
you told me before, where you work sustainably.
So wool was our first material. And it's a premium merino wool, which is ZQ certified, which means that, again, responsibly sourced, the animals are looked after. And Tim, actually his first insight was all about simplicity of design and trying to remove all of the logos and create a simpler shoe, and we think there's a power in that. And he started playing with wool because of the materials. It's a miraculous material. It's, you know, it wicks moisture, it's temperature regulating to some extent, it's super comfy. So we started to play around with the idea, and then after we launched, customers were telling us about 6 months that actually in the super summer hot months like this in the US, wool could actually sometimes be too hot, so we introduced this tree material. So there's wool and there's tree, and there's a third material which the guys had the foresight, when I say the guys, talking about our founders, Tim and Joey, had the foresight to launch. And that actually is quite an interesting material. So the sole here in my shoe is actually made from what we call green EVA. So the polymer is ethylene vinyl acetate. But what the guys did was to partner with a Brazilian multinational firm to actually strip out the petrol that's required to make the sole and replace that with sugarcane. And actually, it's the world's first green EVA, and at source, it's actually carbon negative, which is pretty incredible. And we've also made that open source so other companies can use it. I think 100 companies around the globe have signed up to use it so far. And I guess it goes back to this point of trying to do better things in a better way. And you know, the bigger point on sustainability, there is a need for us to act now and start to address this problem that we're all facing. And you know, part of the reason we're on this quest to find the best materials and try and improve how we do things is to solve this problem out there. The footwear industry alone emits 700 million tons of carbon, which is roughly the entire emissions of Germany as a country. And we are facing a real problem that I think everyone is aware of now, and I'm seeing that more and more in Europe, that actually people care about that deeply. But our position is that we think the way to solve that is trying to create a delightful product that people can love and that does better for the world.
Part of the business case is that you're a direct-to-consumer company.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have to be direct-to-consumer to be successful as a sustainable brand, to bring the message across to the consumer? Is that the better way? What are the pros and cons? Maybe you can evaluate a bit.
That's a really interesting question. You know, I wouldn't envy a number of brands out there right now that are on the journey to try and transform how they do things to become.
You can give examples if you want to.
There's so many brands out there doing such a great job. I guess what I'm saying, it's tough, right? You know, we've existed. Allbirds has gone from, you know, where we've got to now, which is operating in, as of yesterday, 18 countries. We just launched in allbirds.eu, so it's available in Germany. We've grown there quite quickly, and I think it's because of the fact that people ultimately buy into the concept. Now, what the direct-to-consumer model allows you to do, and this is my opinion, right? I've operated in DTC for a while. It allows you to control what you're doing to an extent. So we don't have retailers, we don't have wholesalers, and we get to control the story, we get to control the standards, the materials. This shoe is a great example. When we launched it, actually it launched with a lace, which was a virgin polyester lace, and we were able to find a lace shortly after launch, which was made from recycled bottles, which is the one we've now got in the shoe, and that actually was 5 times more expensive. And it was about a 35-minute discussion.
Can you just say the price of one of the shoes so we get a better idea?
Yeah, it's like 110 euros.
Euros, okay. So.
And I guess the point with the lace example, we get to control what we want to do and how we want to do it. And I think that gives us the ability to make sure we can focus on the standards. We're not, you know, in a race to kind of discount our shoe or to kind of do things which we don't think are right for the medium term. We're just kind of focused on trying to get better. And actually, given this is a tech kind of conference, there's one quite cool example. The wool shoe, which has been out since 2016, has actually had something like almost 40 changes to the actual shoe since it's been in market. And it might be a slight design improvement. It might be, you know, listening to the customer saying that actually they prefer this and us being able to validate that and make the change. And that's akin to more like a tech product. But the biggest thing that I really would say to the sustainability in DTC is the ability you get to be insights obsessed. So we are absolutely obsessed day in, day out on looking at what the customer's thinking and feeling. We have our office in London in Covent Garden above the store, quite intentionally. So
still, since we just had some bloggers on stage, how much does it help that you had some celebrities, influencers like Leonardo DiCaprio, Mila Kunis, Barack Obama wearing the shoes? Would you say this is like still crucial, or do you think no, it has to be the product?
For me, it's always the product, and the product is the reason why Leo actually, I say Leo like he's my best friend, right? Leonardo DiCaprio, he invested into the company. We all know he's got, you know, a strong activist stance and has got a strong view on you know, what needs to happen in the world. But when people like President Barack Obama wear the shoes, we really take that as a sign that, you know, we're doing something right. And
so it's not you approach those guys and those celebrities, they just came across the shoes, so you wouldn't say that this is not part of the strategy?
Yeah, we're not a brand which, you know, today it's not like we would never work with influencers, but we are not kind of, let's go target a bunch of people, get the shoes on and seed in that way. For us, it's about the story. All
right. Since we're almost running out of time, I come to my last question. And since we have you here as a European managing director, can you quickly evaluate or tell us a bit about the plans that you have for Europe? You just mentioned the store in London that has opened. You have the office in London.
Yep.
You opened more and more online platforms, like the German platform, so we can also buy your shoes. But what about further stores? What about expanding?
Sure. So we are now in China, we're in New Zealand, Australia, the US. I launched this into London in October of last year. We've just launched on allbirds.eu, so we're supporting 12 countries across Europe. And I've actually just signed the first lease in Germany, which is super exciting, in Mitte. So we'll be opening...
So Berlin, you are the lucky ones again.
Yeah. I just fell in love. I've started to come quite regularly to Berlin and some of the other cities, but I just fell in love with how kind of chilled out the place is and how much people care about this. And I think there's also, I get a feel that people are kind of into a simpler kind of design here. So yeah, well, for sure.
I'm based in Frankfurt. We're also very into design and stuff, you know. Just it's not always about
Hey,
Berlin in this country.
Hey, you know, Germany already, and I'm not allowed to talk numbers, but just in one days of sales online, which went incredibly well yesterday, Germany was nearly half of our sales in Europe across 12 countries. So for sure there'll be more stores in Germany, more stores in some of the other cities, but you know, the big focus for our team right now is just to keep learning and keep telling the story. So appreciate everyone taking a bit of time to listen.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Sandeep. As I mentioned, we're running out of time already. You're available still afterwards for like eye-to-eye conversations.
Yeah.
So if anybody has some further questions, Sandeep will be here for a coffee, for a chat, for everything you want to ask him. Just feel free. Thanks so much. Thanks to you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.